Good. Welcome to the September 10th special workshop. I'd like to call the Chino City Council and the successor agency to the redevelopment agency to order. If everyone would please stand, I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Comstock to lead us in the flag salute.
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in saluting our nation's flag. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please be seated. And if our city clerk will please note that all council members are present. First item on our agenda is always public comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our discussion items. First item is the Preserve Development Update. We're going to receive and file a Preserve Development Update, and the recommendation will be to receive a presentation regarding the update. I'd like to ask for a staff report from our city planner, Andrea Gilbert, and our Director of Development Services, Warren Morillian.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight, staff will be providing an update on the development and infrastructure improvements within the Preserve Specific Plan area. After staff's presentation, we'll be turning it over to representatives with Fallon Crest Farms and Lewis to provide an update on their land holdings. The preserve encompasses 5,435 acres of land and was annexed into the city of Chino in 2003 with the adoption of the Preserve Specific Plan. The preserve is generally located east of Euclid Avenue, south of Kimball Avenue, with a portion of it extending on the north side of Kimball Avenue, and extends over to the southern and eastern city boundaries. The specific plan provides a framework for development including a mixture of residential neighborhoods, a commercial core, and a comprehensive network of trails providing connectivity between the neighborhoods and open space features throughout the preserve. Construction of the preserve began in 2004 with the approval of the first 5 neighborhoods, the Park House, and the fire substation that is located on the north side of Kimball Avenue. Development stopped in 2008 with the Great Recession, although Chino Development Corporation continued to master plan their land holdings north of Pine Avenue. To date, the Chino Development Corporation land holdings are generally built out north of Pine. North of Pine also includes the Fallon Crest Master Plan area, which is going to be located north of Pine Avenue and on the east and west sides of Main Street, and the Marquez property, which is located south of Bickmore Avenue on the western boundary of the residential portion of the preserve. Chino Preserve Development Corporation is now focusing on their land holding south of Pine Avenue. In 2023, the Preserve Town Center, which is located at Pine and Main Streets, opened and brought a much-needed commercial center to the preserve. Development continues south of Pine, bringing more residential development in the Legacy Academy Elementary School, which opened up the summer of this year. Also planned south of Pine Avenue is the Glen E. Duncan Park and Chino Community Center and County Library. Not located in the preserve, but a project that will assist with improvements along Pine Avenue is the Majestic Chino Heritage Industrial Project that is located at the southeast corner of Mountain and Bickmore Avenues. This project was originally approved in 2021 by the Planning Commission and the City Council. This project does sit below the 566-foot flood inundation line and requires approvals from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Majestic Realty is continuing to work with the Army Corps to obtain such approvals and anticipates receiving a final approval from the Army Corps relatively soon, and then they would be able to break ground on this project. Public Works staff will now be providing an update on all the infrastructure improvements within the preserve area.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Today we'll be providing a high-level update on major infrastructure projects related to development in the preserve. These projects are either currently under construction or are anticipated to be under construction in the future. We'll start by reviewing projects located at the north end of the preserve and then move southward. The photo on this slide shows the different projects we intend to cover tonight. Starting with Merrill Avenue. Merrill Avenue is currently closed from Euclid to Stearman Drive in front of Chino Airport. This closure allows the industrial developer in Ontario, RITA, to complete the Euclid intersection improvements they were conditioned to construct by City of Ontario. On this slide, you can see a recent drone photo taken of the Euclid intersection looking westward towards Merrill. And you can see the alignment of the new curb on the east side of Euclid, south of Merrill, as well as the new concrete pavement on the north side of the intersection. The current closure is expected to end by November of this year, barring any unforeseen delays. Road detour signs are set up to guide commuters and alert them that businesses at Chino Airport, such as Flo's Cafe, continue to remain open during construction. The developer is conditioned by Ontario to construct the south side of Merrill from Euclid all the way to just west of Grove. Once completed, this will provide 2 eastbound travel lanes on Merrill along Chino Airport per the city's general plan. According to the developer's project schedule, they expect to finish the south side and open it to the public by the end of this year, again, barring any unforeseen delays.
I have a quick question. Will the south side also be concrete like the north?
At the intersections.
Right.
The approach to the intersections will be
Will
concrete
be?
as well.
Okay.
So I wanted to also note too that by the work on the south side of Merrill is anticipated to be completed by the end of this year, but that's just the roadway improvements. So the work behind the curb, so that would be like the sidewalk and the street lights, that would be built sometime next year at a yet to be determined date.
By them as well?
Excuse me?
By RITA as well?
By RITA as well.
Okay.
And the developer is also conditioned by Ontario to widen Euclid and install a new raised landscape median along the property frontage from Eucalyptus to Merrill. The developer is currently in the process of obtaining all the necessary plan approvals from Caltrans and the 2 cities. Completion of the Euclid improvements is anticipated to be completed by spring of next year. The next project is Kimball Avenue. The city recently widened the north side of Kimball Avenue between Rincon Meadows and Mill Creek. The project addressed the bottleneck in the westbound direction where 2 lanes narrowed down to 1 lane, thus improving traffic flow in the area. The photo in this slide shows the newly widened road on the north side of Kimball with the view towards the west. During the project, city staff had to coordinate with Southern California Edison to remove 5 large steel poles that were in conflict with the street widening. The project is now nearly complete. The widened portion of the street has been base paved and is open to the public. The contractor will be returning in November to apply the final pavement cap and striping. The next couple of slides, we're going to cover Bickmore Avenue improvements. The first project to be covered are the Bickmore Street improvements within the Fallon Crest development, which is primarily the area shown on this slide on the north side of Pine between West Preserve Loop and East Preserve Loop. Tri-Point Homes is currently constructing a residential tract located just west of East Preserve Loop. So I don't know if my cursor works, but it's essentially the area east of that blue line that's on the photo. So as part of their development, they're required to construct Bickmore along their property frontage, and Tri-Point Homes has indicated that that segment should be completed and open to the public by the end of this year. Tri-Point Homes also recently received entitlements for the next phase of development in Fallon Crest, which consists of the residential tract just east of West Preserve Loop. So it's the area west of that blue line. And once again, they were conditioned to construct the Bickmore improvements along their property frontage, and they anticipate those improvements would be done by summer of next year. So with those two phases completed, it will leave one last phase of development in Fallon Crest, and that would be the community core section, which is within that blue line area that you see on the picture. So according to the development agreement with Fallon Crest, the segments of Bickmore are to be finished based on the development phases. So per the DA, the community core section of Bickmore Avenue wouldn't be done until that development occurs, and at this point in time, it's unknown when that development will actually happen. So for that reason, and recognizing the importance of completing Bickmore between Euclid and Hellman to provide an alternate route besides Kimball and Pine, the staff is in initial discussions with Fallon Crest representatives to look into the possibility of amending the DA or possibly entering into a separate agreement to see if we could complete those Bickmore improvements that are going to be missing before the final phase of development. The other Bickmore street improvements we wanted to cover were the ones located just east of Euclid. This section of Bickmore was widened as part of the conditions of approval for the Aleer Industrial Development located at the northeast corner. The developer has completed the base pavement of the street after installing the required underground utilities, and the roadway is currently open to the public. Final street pavement rehabilitation for this segment is on hold until the developer completes the remaining sewer improvements across Euclid to connect the new sewer to the city's existing main. However, staff still needs to coordinate with the developer to address whether it's actually going to be feasible to make the sewer connection across Euclid. Additionally, staff has identified quality issues with the sewer construction just east of Euclid that the developer needs to address before the street pavement can undergo its final rehabilitation.
What issues are they having? Sinkholes again?
It's more to do with the elevation of the sewer line and making sure that it has positive drainage towards the direction that it's supposed to go. We've discovered that there's an area where it would be flowing in the opposite direction, essentially.
So what would the fix be?
We are in the process of trying to identify how to fix it, whether is there a fix or do we need to re-excavate the road, which we don't want to do. So there's an option to do a sewer lift station that they're willing to pay for. But yes, Mayor and Council, we do have some settlements over the trench because of poor construction quality when it was initially constructed. So we're working with the developer and the contractor on that.
I was going to ask. I know you covered the improvements next to the fire department, but you said that the contractor wasn't going to come back until November to do the paving. Why is it taking so long for him to do the paving?
I think it's just based on their schedule. They're just extremely busy at the moment. I'm actually waiting for that same contractor that's going to be completing the Edison rehab in front of Ayala Park. I'm still waiting for a date to complete that. I know they recently did the intersection of Edison and Central, but we're still waiting for them to get back to us to let us know when they're going to do that segment as well. So I think they're just extremely busy at the moment. There's probably a lot of projects that they're working on at the moment.
Basically, all the asphalt that the asphalt plant is producing is already committed to other projects. So first availability will be in November. Similarly, we have Ramona Avenue. They're not coming back until October because the asphalt is already committed to another project.
Yes, Karen.
There's been several problems with Bickmore since its opening. I would just encourage staff with this developer to attain the most desirable resolution for this problem for the long term for the city. I don't want to see anything but something that we want in our best interest, not just for us in managing it, but for our residents down there to prevent the road from having any unforeseen closure problems. So thank you.
Yes.
Moving on, the next project is Storm Drain Line I, also known as the Euclid Storm Drain. The city's drainage master plan includes the construction of a storm drain facility along Euclid, extending from Merrill down to Prado Lake, south of Pine, covering approximately 2.4 miles. The primary purpose of the storm drain is to manage upstream flows from the Ontario areas north of Merrill. Additionally, the westernmost portion of the preserve, shown in the colored areas on the photo, will also discharge into the storm drain. Design work for the storm drain has begun, and it's expected to be completed by summer of next year. Currently, staff is coordinating with our design engineer and public agency stakeholders to explore design alternatives for the southernmost portion of the storm drain, where it will discharge into the Prado Dam area. The city will be required to obtain various permits from other public agencies to allow construction of the facility. So this includes Army Corps of Engineers and Orange County Flood Control District. The estimated cost to complete the project has risen to $77 million. For this reason, staff is exploring funding options, including any possible grant opportunities, as only a portion of the cost for the project will be covered by the Preserve DIF program. Both the county and the City of Ontario have tentatively agreed to a cost-sharing agreement with the city to help fund the project. However, finalizing this agreement is contingent on the city securing the necessary funds to proceed with the construction.
You mentioned that the City of Ontario and the county are talking about tentative cost sharing. Why wouldn't they just automatically do that? Because of where the line is?
No, the agreement has been drafted, but it hasn't been executed because they're waiting for the city to secure the funding to move forward with the construction. So we would be the project lead, so we need to essentially front the money, and then they would reimburse us.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
I have a question about the design. The new regulations on storm drain now, on not allowing contaminants and all the rest of it, the new design, will it incorporate the new requirements that are coming?
Yes, Mayor. So we've been working with our engineers, our consultant engineers, to explore options on how to mitigate some of those regulatory compliance. So we are working with the county parks on where to discharge and how we're going to maintain it and what kind of treatment that we want to employ. So we are exploring several different options for those.
Okay.
The next project is Pine Avenue Stage 3. This project involves widening Pine Avenue between Meadow House and Rincon Meadows to eliminate the current bottleneck where the roadway narrows to a single lane in both directions, thus improving traffic flow in the area. The work will include raising the road to move it out of the flood zone and installing a permanent storm drain crossing underneath the road as part of the city's drainage master plan. To elevate the road and address the loss of capacity in the flood zone behind Prado Dam, fill dirt will need to be borrowed from nearby properties. The city has identified a suitable property owned by Orange County Flood Control District off Johnson Avenue, which is the triangle-shaped yellow hatched areas on the photo off of Johnson. Those would be the borrow site for the fill dirt. The project requires permits from multiple agencies, including Army Corps of Engineers, State of California, and Orange County Flood Control District. Staff has submitted all necessary permit applications and expects to receive them by or before next spring, with a 408 permit from the Army Corps of Engineers anticipated to take the longest to obtain. Improvement plans for the project have already been approved by the city. Construction by Lewis of this DIF-funded project is expected to start soon after permits are obtained and it goes out to bid.
I have a quick question. I
Sure.
apologize. And forgive my ignorance here, but borrow fill dirt. When we borrow fill dirt, is that dirt we have to pay back somehow, or how does that work?
So we are basically we're raising the roadway, and so we have to find dirt in order to accommodate the raising of that area. And when we do that, because a portion of the project site is below the 566 line, we're taking away capacity for flooding behind the dam. So we have to offset that capacity And so what we're doing is we're essentially making a hole somewhere else to accommodate the fact that there won't be a hole there for flooding, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I believe the word is burrow, not borrow.
Okay,
Right. Okay.
I heard borrow.
It is borrow.
It's borrow.
It is
It's
a
borrow
borrow.
flood. Yeah.
I would imagine they burrow down to get the dirt.
Yeah, they do burrow down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So Pine Avenue is anticipated to remain open throughout the duration of construction, as a temporary road will be initially built to allow travel in both directions without the need to close the road during construction. And now I'll turn it over to our Public Works Director, who will cover the remaining part of the presentation.
Thank you. All right, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. So next slides, I'm going to be going over what council considers a priority for the community. So as you can see on Jesus' presentation, Pine Avenue has multiple phases and multiple sections, and they're all identified as a separate project. So let's kind of go over Pine Avenue widening. This is a Pine Avenue east of Euclid and includes the intersection work. And this kind of is just west of the phase 3 that Lewis is developing, but it's a continuation to widen all the way to Euclid. So this portion of Pine Avenue will be 3 lanes in each direction. And again, this raises our road above the floodplain so that they are all weather conditioned. And the project is approximately 65% complete. And again, a lot of the roadways in this part of Chino is in floodplain. So we are working with Army Corps for jurisdictional permits, and working with them also on making sure that they continue to review our plans even when the federal funds are exhausted on the Army Corps side. So we're going to be bringing to council a 214 agreement so that they will continue to review the project.
Hey, Jen, on Pine Avenue, the way you raise it, how are you going to transfer the water from the north to the south?
So
Is
that's
it a bridge
another-
or culvert?
Yeah, that'll be the line I.
Oh, the line I.
Yes.
But that's Euclid, but there's another area on the
Oh,
east
yeah,
of that.
that's line H. Yeah.
Of course.
We have all these nomenclatures from our drainage master plan, so we name them.
So
And
there's-
it's the line I and line H.
So does this include line H?
Line H is slightly to the east of the project.
Yeah.
But this one, Euclid, will be the conveyance point for line I,
Yeah.
storm drain.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a lot of drainage crossings on the project, so that's what makes it really complex. And obviously, storm drain I alignment also impacts how we're gonna be able to design our roadway, because storm drain I is a pretty sizable structure. It's a 10x8 and 2 of them on the road, which takes up a lot of room. So obviously, there's a complexity to make sure we avoid conflicts with other utilities. And we have a final environmental pending Euclid relinquishment, and we've been touching base with Caltrans on that, and we just got an update. Unfortunately, not a good one. They're thinking that now relinquishment is gonna be complete in December of 2025. But we are continuing to push and see if they could do it any faster. But we are in constant contact with Caltrans on that. All right, and this is another portion of Pine Avenue connector. This Pine Avenue connector is just west of Pine Avenue, the one that you just saw. And this portion of the roadway is 2 lanes in each direction. And portion of this road is actually in city of Chino Hills, about half a mile of them actually. So we are, and design is in progress, and staff just received an updated traffic impact analysis, and we also share that with SBCTA and City of Chino Hills, and they appreciate the fact that we are sharing these pertinent information so they could provide us feedback, because they're our partners in the project. And even though we call these our projects. These are regional corridors that provides east-west access all the way to Norco and Eastvale and also portions of Ontario. So it's not just our project per se. It's a regional benefit project. And we are also with any other projects that we have in this part of city of Chino, we are working with environmental group to make sure that we clear all the environmental determination. And we just had a meeting with Caltrans today to talk about some of the requirements that they're going to be putting on. So we are working diligently on making sure we cross all our T's and dot our I's. Euclid Bridge. Again, this is pending relinquishment of Euclid Avenue. So this is a safety improvement, as we know that we've had several incidences where we have to close the road during flood inundation periods and for safety purposes. So this project removes the roadway bottleneck and provide access to Pomona Rincon Road. And as you recall, we took the design to infrastructure committee, and we are going to be designing a bridge instead of a retaining wall to secure the sides, and that has a minimal impact compared to building a retaining wall, and also expedites the construction period. And we also provide cyclist and pedestrian access for the project, compliant with all the ADA requirements, and requires Army Corps permits. And some of these are actually the whole stretch of Euclid Avenue in this portion is actually in the Army Corps property. So when we are conveying Caltrans relinquishment, they're gonna have to basically relinquish, we're gonna have to take on the easement portion for the roadway. And design is expected to complete by fall of 2029, so approximately a year from now, and final environmental pending Euclid relinquishment. So as you could imagine, each year our construction costs have outpaced the cost of a consumer price index, and our estimated construction cost is approximately $94 million. And we're also looking at how we're going to finance the project, and perhaps with Caltrans, we're hoping that they will partner with us, and also SPCTA, because again, these are regional corridors. They just happen to be in city of Chino, but it's not just the city of Chino road. It's a regionally important corridor. And as a part of environmental process, we also spoke with another partner who actually offered to explore a potential mitigation site in city of Chino. So we are making progress in making sure we comply with all the environmental clearance requirements. And I believe that is our final project, and I am here to answer any questions council might have.
On the Euclid Bridge, since part of that
Yeah.
touches county land, isn't the county going to participate also in the expense of that bridge?
We could certainly reach out to them, and I think that's where SBCTA comes in. They're kind of, SBCTA is part of the county transportation.
Right.
And we will certainly reach out to any partner who are willing to partner with us.
You know, Supervisor Hagman is still hoping to have the shooting Olympics down there. And not only does Euclid have to be done, but the,
Pine.
what's that other little
Pine.
street? No, not Pine.
Pomona Rincon.
Corona Ring, yeah, that has to be improved as well.
Yeah, Pomona Rincon off-ramp and on-ramp is part of this design.
Okay.
So we will not just leave it hanging. We will provide access, as well as the access to the county park, where that's all part of the design elements for the Euclid Avenue project.
We need to hit the lottery. We just need to hit the lottery.
Yeah.
And the big one.
Agent Health,
Big lottery.
what's the height of the bridge gonna be? Do you know?
I don't know that yet. They're working on, it's gotta be above, I think, 50-year flood, because that's what they're designing for. We couldn't really design it to 100 years because then we won't be able to create a ramp down to Pomona Rincon because it'll be so high. So we're designing it to a 50-year flood.
Will Army Corps accept that?
Yes, they would accept it, and that's why we are designing it for 50-year. Because if we design it for 100-year, we won't be able to provide access to Pomona Rincon nor the county park.
Right, okay. Any questions, comments? Just get a winning lottery ticket.
Get it
Jim?
done, right? Get it done.
Yeah. Golly whiz.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Chris.
Couple things. Number one, regarding the Euclid Bridge, a part of the design that may be coming back next year, hopefully. It was mentioned the last time we spoke about this by Councilmember Kurt Burton. The design of the entrance and exit of the shooting range there. We're hoping that when the designs come back, that is a part of the plans. And the next thing I want to mention, the mayor kind of touched on this, but in terms of the expense, definitely, reach out to the county. I think that's, that should have been done. But I think that, or are we in communication with other cities as well? Eastvale and, every other city that this corridor, would benefit?
I have had conversations with the county, Eastvale and Ontario, and Chino Hills, and Pomona.
Okay.
So we've already started those discussions. We've already started the discussion with the county. So when we know how much and we've got the design, then we'll definitely reach out to our partners.
And if you don't mind me asking, what's the feel from our partners?
They're all supportive.
Okay.
Well, as we're working things through with Chino Hills, but Eastvale, supportive, Ontario supportive. Pomona was supportive, however, this doesn't really impact Pomona as much, and that was the previous city manager, so I'll be reaching out to the new one as well.
They're emotionally supportive. We'll see if they're monetarily supportive.
Yeah, I guess that was my real question, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to introduce Jason Lee from Fallon Crest for update.
Good evening.
Council, my name is Jason Lee. I'm the representative for the Fallon Crest project. I have a slide, Brian. Oh, there you go. Okay. Fallon Crest project is bounded by West Reserve Loop on the west side and essentially the Harvest project from Lewis on the other side of East Reserve Loop. North of Pine, south of the school, and just with the Edison power lines you can see cutting through there. The project is laid out and entitled and developed into 3 phases, or 4 phases really. The phase that you don't see identified as the phase on the right-hand side, we call it phase 0. It's the initial phase we had of the project. It was the for phase that currently KB is under construction with. Our original project approvals, we obtained EIR back in September 2015. We had an A-level approval on the entire project in October 2015. And then in 2021, we started getting our individual mapping done. We got our development agreement done for the first 3 phases 1, 2, and 3. And then we started getting individual mapping done for KB and our future buyer, or our current buyers, TriPoint. Oh, by the way, feel free to interrupt. I'm going to kind of go through as much as I can, but I don't want to prohibit you from asking any questions. What you see on here is an overview of the entire project, including phases 1, 2, and 3, and then East Reserve Loop on the right-hand side with the KB project on the right there. KB is already under construction. TriPoint to the west of them with the park right above it is under construction. And then we just closed with TriPoint all the way on West Reserve Loop on the left-hand side of the picture. That sort of L shape that goes up and above Bickmore and wraps around the Edison easement. That's just been entitled as well. We've sold that to TriPoint. They're processing their improvement plans. So what's going to happen is we'll have 3 phases under construction with our final phase being the development community core right in the middle with Main Street up to the school. So Fallon Crest Phase 0, we call it. It's the KB homes on the right-hand side. Phase 1 is the TriPoint piece with the portion of the 7 acres of the 10-acre park total will be constructed with TriPoint's first phase. And I think that's a pretty current site plan that's been processed with them. showing the kind of the temporary, the first parking lot. Phase 2 is the portion that TriPoint just got entitled and they're moving forward with. That should be under construction here, I think, in the next year or so with the development. And then what's remaining, yes,
Can you go back?
yeah,
Go back one more.
yes,
West of the park,
yes.
why wouldn't you do that little part in the parking lot? South of the Edison easement land?
What we're trying to do is build it in phases. That section drains towards Bickmore, drains towards Main Street. So we built it, the portion that you see here drains towards East Reserve Loop. The portion of the next phase, phase 2, drains towards West Reserve Loop and their interior street. And the portion in the middle, which is this piece, drains towards Main. So from an infrastructure point of view, we're building it by phase. I think the differentiation is that Fallen Crest ownership isn't a true developer, unlike the Lewis Company where they go out and actually physically build the improvements. We're a land developer, and so what we do is we go in and entitle these pieces, get them in development phases that make sense for our buyers to be able to develop, get that approved with staff's ideas on how to phase it from an infrastructure point of view, get that into our development agreement, and allow our buyers then to be able to build this in a manner that makes sense. So there's no interim conditions in this scenario. This builds it piece by piece.
It just seems like cutting that park off in the middle of the park with no parking doesn't make any sense to me.
The parking on the right-hand side, you can see it. I don't know.
There's only a smidge.
Yeah, it's the portion that serves the basketball courts and the tennis courts. And then the open field play area. And then the more intense area, which is meant to, I can skip forward, but the more intense area where the splash pad is, here we go, right, no, didn't show up. The splash pad right on the northeast corner of Bickmore and Main,
Right.
That's where the intense area is going to be and the playground's going to be. That's where we're tying it into the mixed use. Okay, yeah. The mixed use area is going to be tied with that.
Okay.
So yeah, this phasing was based on infrastructure, based on reasonable sized pieces for our developers to physically construct. So it wasn't overburdening to each phase to overbuild infrastructure. But we did want to commit to building in our first phase, building the first phases of the park, the 7 acres of the 10-acre park. Phase 3. Sorry. Phase 3 is our next phase. We're currently under design with that phase. Phase 3 has a lot higher density, up to 30 DU per acre is the average. We've got about 400 lots. My clicker's not changing. Oh, there you go.
Staff, can you help him?
Can you back? Back. There you go. So phase 3 has 441 units left. It's only on 25 acres, so the density is going to be significantly higher. And we're going to have the remainder of the 3.7 acres, remainder of the 10-acre park. We're also going to have a 1-acre town square, and we're going to have a commercial core, a commercial center going up the middle. Can you go to the next slide? So in the commercial, you see the pink squares centered around the town square, the green town square down in the corner. That town square is meant to be kind of the focal point of the community center, of the community core of that area. And what we want to do from a commercial perspective is Lewis has gone ahead and developed to the south side, and they've developed a fantastic shopping center, Stater Brothers. And what we didn't want to do was we didn't want to compete. What we want to do is create something different. Our vision of this area, we've got almost 1,400 homes in just this Fallen Crest area. It's going to be higher density product. It's going to be intense. And we have an ability to create a lot of walking capability. So what we want to do is create a dining experience, and we call it, the idea is create destination dining. In commercial centers, it's not often that you would go to an Applebee's for dinner. You'd go to the Applebee's, you'd eat dinner, and you'd go home. You wouldn't really hang out there or spend any time around that area. And I think what we're trying to do is create that feel. With COVID, the way COVID happened, it actually created outdoor dining. It encouraged people to go out and have meals outside, have more of an atmosphere, a creative atmosphere, and that's what we're trying to create in this area. We would have brunch dining, afternoon and evening dining, outdoor patios along Main Street, and create more of an atmosphere, different than your typical shopping center, but more what we think would be more advantageous to these density ranges. You have a lot more people that can walk there. We have the Edison Trail. We have an east-west link, pedestrian link through the project. And the idea is to get people out in the evenings. You see so many people walking their dogs. We've created a dog park right on the northwest corner of Bickmore and Main, across from the Main Park. Create that activity where Main and Bickmore is going to be the center. In the afternoons, you can have the school is right above us. You can have kids walking back and forth to school. You can have that activity going up and down, down to the Lewis projects to the south of us. We really think that the north side of Main is really going to be an active, walkable area. And what we want to do is create that commercial center to support that. The town square was an idea that we worked with staff on. It's an area that you can see the hatched area right in front of the town square. That area, that road can be closed. We can have food trucks. We can have farmers markets. Create kind of, again, another reason for you to get out of your smaller unit and head down to these areas and enjoy the outdoors. Outdoor dining, outdoor farmers market, outdoor kind of these concepts that you see here. The top right-hand corner is kind of a food truck concept on an open park. The other ideas are all the outdoor dining concepts that we have in the area. That's the next slide. The next slide is the overall concept of the park. I talked about it. It's really kind of sliced. It's a little bit of a triangle cut by the Edison easement. So the tip of the triangle is the northwest corner, which is where the dog park is going to be. What we've talked about with a couple different commercial developers is a bark and brew kind of concept where it's almost an outdoor. You can take your dog to the dog park, grab a glass of wine, let your dog run around, and then you can walk back to your units. Across the street would be the main active area. We talked about that with the 10-acre park, 7 acres being built in phase 1, and the remainder being built with phase 3. All tied in with the Edison easement, which you can see cutting through the property. That's everything I have to talk about on the project. I'm open to any questions.
Questions or comments? Mark?
Well, I know this is kind of late in the game when they were designing this area, not just on the Fellencrest side, but on the Lewis side. I just foresee, especially on Pine Avenue, being as busy as it is and being a truck route, and then us eventually trying to expand that out to the 71 freeway. I really think that we should have potentially looked for some sort of bridge, because to have kids continuously crossing the street there for school, or residents going back and forth crossing Pine Avenue, I think you're going to generate a lot of traffic on Pine Avenue because of the constant signal lights that are going to be stopping traffic from going east and west. I think that should have been something we thought about, because I think this is eventually going to become a problem in the future.
That's a good point. Yeah, good point. Have you looked at anything along those lines?
No. I think the only thing we really focused on was making sure that we spaced out the signals far enough so that we didn't have too many intersections where we would have an interruption in flow of traffic. I think with East Preserve Loop and West Preserve Loop, and Main Street being the main three intersections, that's kind of what we really focus on, not creating any additional signals at those points.
Okay. Chris, did you have anything? Karen? Kurt? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You made a valid point.
Yeah. We may end up having to do some kind of an
Real quick, I just want to introduce Pat with Lewis. He's going to come up next and kind of give an idea of what Lewis is doing, not only right now, but some of the things in the future, and then touch a little bit on demographics down there.
Good evening. I'm Pat Loy with Lewis Planned Communities. We're pleased to be here tonight to talk a little bit about what's happened and what's to come. On our presentation tonight, I'm going to walk through a few slides, touch on some projects, things to come, and then Randall is going to talk about demographics and maybe vision of the community and what's happening, and a little more excitement. Does this thing work? Excuse me. Thank you. So we first started the preserve, it was almost 20 years ago. The first 5 neighborhoods up here in the north. Huh. Yeah. First 5 neighborhoods were up in the north of Pine, and we completed the Park House and Founders Park and opened that up in February of 2005. Also in the north, we worked with the Chino Valley School District, and Greg Statura was helpful in getting the Cal Aero Preserve Academy School opened up. With that, we have a joint use gym and a joint use library that got started. Other notable projects north of Pine, I apologize for this laser pointer, it's not reflecting on that, is the Harvest Project that we just completed over at Hellman Avenue and Pine Avenue. Thank you. Appreciate the assist, Andrea. The Meadow Square Apartments, which are over on the west side, that was actually a project that we built with Western National Apartment Group that has 106 low and very low income affordable units. So that helped to meet the affordable requirements, even though if you looked at the project from the outside, it's a beautiful project with a number of fair market rental units as well. Currently in that community, Beezer Homes is developing and selling a project called Zinnia, which is a townhouse project that's still selling. That's north of Pine. We have a small 26 lots that are on the west side of that are to be developed when the adjacent land opens up. That's right now it's agricultural use, so that will be opened up at a future date. And the Edison corridor, which you can see throughout, a lot of the areas that we received approval with Edison, and then we were able to get that landscaped and get trails in. We worked with the city to get that accepted and opened up. So that's a nice amenity for the residents. Next, as we go south of Pine, backwards. We go south of Pine, recently completed projects. Andrea touched on the town center, shopping center, anchored by Stater Brothers, that's opened up. That's now 88% leased. Wrapping around it is our Homecoming Phase 5 rental community. That is, I think that's essentially almost 100% leased as well. To date, on the Lewis portion of the project, we have over almost 5,500 building permits that have been pulled. Lewis has a total of 8,129 units. And then, so that leaves about 2,600 units, building permits remaining. On new projects to come south of Pine, this is where it gets exciting along Main Street, the heart of the community, just south of Market Street. Yes, right there, Andrea, we're working on, with the city, we've been doing the conceptual design for the Chino Public Community Center and Library. So that's, and we have some, right below that is the Glen Duncan Park, which will wrap around that. Further to the south, there's what we call the Club on Main, which is another private recreational facility that we'll build similar to the Park House north of Pine. This will be a flagship private recreation facility available only for the Lewis residents, homeowners that buy in the community. This is an image of looking from Market Street to the south with the front of the community center building with the library on the front. And that would be at the corner of Market and Main Street, looking to the south. Again, this is at the northernmost portion. This is the library facility. We're combining the library and the community center to be more efficient and to save costs. So overall, it's planned. It's almost 43,000 square feet, the combined building. It includes a basketball gym with wood floors. It's got a banquet facility that could go well over 200 seats. It's got we have an area adjacent to the banquet facility that goes outside that I'll show on another slide. That could be a wedding venue where we've got an event lawn. We have dance and aerobics rooms, programmable classrooms, and then the city will own the library. It'll be operated by San Bernardino County, and the library will be unique because it has several what they call maker spaces, and these are areas they're working with Garner Holt Educational, and they're famous for robotics. Maybe you've seen at Disneyland or Knott's Berry Farm and so on, but they're working with the county, and as part of the maker space, their goal would be to put some equipment inside those areas where they can teach people about technology and how to use the equipment, whether it's 3D digital printing or other technology. And this is hands-on classes where children and adults can come in and actually learn how to use the piece of equipment. So we're very excited about that, and the county's been working with them for some time. So that will be a major amenity to the library. This is a view from the back of the building. You can see on the left is the high ceiling for the basketball gym, and then the other portion, this would be a grass amphitheater area, very similar to what's outside here, where you have a elevated stage, and then on the back of the building, that could be concerts or movies in the park, or be a really nice amenity for the community. This is a concept site plan for the Glen Duncan Park. What you see on the left side, that's Market Avenue, that's to the north. Main Street is along the bottom of the map. So the community center is right in the left corner, right there, correct. So if you go to the right, that's where the green grass amphitheater would be. And above that, there's open play space. Further to the north, there's tot lot. And then if you go further left, we have a dog park planned. And then as you come back towards the center, that's the event lawn where potentially somebody could have a wedding out there and set up, or other events that links very nicely into the community center, which the separate entry for the banquet hall would be off of that eastern elevation. Further to the south, we have a track, that's a quarter mile. And then inside that, we have grass areas that would be set up for open play, that could be play fields. One additional area that you can see down along Main Street between the building and the park, we call that Arbor Walk, and that's an expanded area. Here's an image of what that might be along Main Street, where you could set up for art shows or the food farmers markets or other types of shows. I know Jason mentioned earlier maybe food trucks, but this is an area where Main Street, you could actually block off the street and have linkage between the community center, the park, and this area for community events. Last item, this is the Club on Main, which is our private recreational facility. It's approximately 14,000 square feet with another about 8,000 feet of covered area. So this sits on a little over 3 acres, and we'll have a pool and other amenities that go with the Club on Main. So between all these projects along Main Street, if we just look at the public community center, the park, the Arbor Walk, the private Club on Main, we'll be investing over $70 million in community amenities. And most all of these we're working hard on the plans right now, will be started within the next year. So that we're really looking forward to that. That's really going to add to the community, the sense of community and the amenities for the residents. Also under construction is just below the park is a project we call Independence, and it's a rental duplex community right below, and just above that in the turquoise is the new Legacy Academy K-8 school that was opened up just this year. So now we've got 2 K-8 schools, Kalaharo on the north and Legacy Academy on the south. On this diagram, you can also see that we've just graded down to the south, Block 3A. You see that one? Yes, right there. And those, we've got several different product types, but we'll be introducing single-story homes. We've got some lots that they're low density, some low-density product that we're building. There's a quick snapshot. TrueMark Homes is the builder that's coming in and building on one of those. So there's a quick snapshot of.
Whoops.
Oops. Yes. Just go. No, that's. We'll go back. We go back to the master plan. So Block 3A is graded. We'll be starting construction on that shortly. Next is in the community core, what we call Block 11. So it's down in the southeast corner where Andrea's highlighting that. We'll start grading on that very shortly. New projects that have been approved, if we go up to the north and west, we call Block 1. So that's an area of single-family detached homes. We've got 4 different products. It was mostly medium-density residential, but we've got single-family detached lots that go up to 5,000 square feet. So there's a mix of lots. That would be the next area we go into development. Our apartment group is working on Block 8, which is in the community core on Main Street. The master plan's been approved for that. And then future projects that we're working on are Block 2, which is low-density residential. So we're doing some forward planning on that. And then Block 10, which is the last big piece in the community core. And then down the road would be the Block 3, which is the estate residential in the park on the east side. So to wrap up, I have a video that was a drone overflight which shows town center, and it shows some of the land south of Pine, which gives a very, here we go. This is a view from Market Street looking to the north, up Main Street, up toward Pine. So of note here on this west side, I don't know if you can make them out, but we have some, I think they're Tesla charging stations that we've worked with that are along this this row of the site. We're coming into Main Street. You can see the significant monument signs that are in the entry. You can barely make out in the background. You can see on the left side is the new K-8 school. This really came out as nicely with these units where the folks can walk right over to the commercial.
Pat, all of these are occupied now?
I believe we're in the 90, maybe 98% of those new units.
What are the rental ranges? Do you know offhand?
Don't know. I may defer that question to Randall, or we'll get an answer on that one.
What's the status of all of your commercial buildings? Are they, how much rent?
So
What's
right
the occupancy there?
right now we're at 88% of all the buildings that are. So we're down to some of the smaller spaces. On the corner there, you see Panera Bread and then Chipotle on the far side. This is a view looking at it, steps back a little bit, and you can see up into the Fallon Crest property across the street. And then other land that we own further west, across Main Street and further on out. This is a nice perspective of the additional land that's owned, that Lewis owns, that we're planning further.
It's quite a bit.
So just envision now, we'll be coming down Main Street. Right on the left there would be the brand-new community center. Wrapping around it would be the Glen Duncan Park. And then as we go further on down with the other amenities. But you can see in the background our first phases of Homecoming, phases 1 through 4 that have been built there. And,
It's amazing.
I'm sorry for the length of this, but I thought it was a good perspective just to see all that property down to the south. You can see East Preserve Loop has been extended on down. And then you can see the area that's on the far left that's been graded. And then we're preparing to grade just inside of East Preserve Loop between Main over to East Preserve Loop. That's where Block 11 is. So.
It'd be kind of cool if you could overlay those block numbers on this, you know?
Yes, yes.
It's amazing.
This is just wrapping up with a few still shots of the shopping center and looking out to the east. With that, I could either answer questions or I could wait till after Randall's made his presentation and we could do questions.
Pat, quick question. How many more units do you guys have left before you guys are fully built out?
We have approximately 2,600 more building permits of units to build. So that would put us at 8,129. Okay, now I'd welcome Randall Lewis to make his presentation on the vision and demographics.
Thank you, Pat. Good evening, I'm Randall Lewis. I want to, excuse me. I want to thank the city for letting us do business more than 60 years in the city of Chino and for being able to work at the preserve for more than 20 years. I think when we first bought the property, we never dreamed it would end up being a 30 or 40-year project. I hope it'll be a 30-year project and not a 40-year project. I want to thank the staff. You've really been a joy to work with, and I think together we've accomplished some great things. And lastly, since our house is so close to the fires in Claremont, I want to thank the public safety people in the room and your colleagues. I'm very much appreciative of all you do for the communities in our region. So I'm just going to talk about a bit of statistics on the preserve. We've got a lot more. I just have to say with fair housing rules, there's a lot of stuff I can't talk about publicly. I can share some stuff one-on-one. But there's just some rules on what you can do or not do publicly with data about people. And then I'm going to give some information, just sort of some things that we've learned. The source for this stuff came from a couple things. First, we collect data from our home builders and then our renters, and we always try to summarize it. And then we do what are called focus groups. We did one last Tuesday night at the Preserve where we had 8 of our renters representing 5 households. And we talked to them over 2 hours, sort of what do you like, what do you not like. And then I took some time this last week to get prepared for this, talking to some of the leasing people and some of the sales people. Just what are things that we've learned? What are they hearing from the customers? So I want to say from a statistical point of view, it may not be 100% accurate. A lot of this is self-reported. People don't always give the most accurate information. But in general, what you're going to hear from me, I think it's very good information. It's very accurate information. I think the first thing that was interesting to us, and we've seen this over time, is that we designed the preserve. We were hoping it would be this magnet for families. We tried to say, how do you make it the most family-friendly community it could be? And I think we accomplished that But having said that, only about 50% of our households in the for sale side and the rental side have children at home. We've got a lot of singles, a lot of couples, a lot of retirees, people without kids, people whose kids have moved out. So I think the preserve is perceived as this place where it's just families. And we have a lot of families, it's half of the households, but it's only half of the households. And so for us going forward, and as we work with your staff and with all of you, I think we need to be remembering on programming and also amenities the other half of the population. Interestingly enough, one of the things we're seeing at the preserve, and we see this in almost all of our communities, we typically get more dogs than children. And I'm seeing that here. And that's something that's nights that people have dogs, they create a lot of problems. But that's something that we really have to work on. On our home buyers, we collect what is just some information from our builders. And so we wanted to just show you where they're coming from. We do what is called a heat map. And what it showed is that by far the biggest number of our buyers are coming from the San Gabriel Valley at our home buying projects. They're coming from the 60 freeway, the 10 freeway, a few from the 210, but mainly along the 60 and 10 corridor in the San Gabriel Valley. The second chunk of big group of buyers that we get are coming from Chino itself, from Eastvale, from Ontario, and Chino Hills. And that just makes sense that they're here and they know it's a good area and they want to get a house in a master plan community. The third group of buyers that we get, and it's a pretty far down, but it's still significant, is people in Orange County, Irvine, and some of the cities there. And I think a lot of those people are coming to the preserve because they're used to the master plan living, and they're saying they're going to come up here, whether our community or Island Crest to the north. They like master plan communities. We've learned that people who like master plan communities tend to buy their next home in a master plan community, and people who don't like them try to avoid them. They feel there's too much control or too many homeowners association issues or other. We also found, just when we look at the heat map, there are dozens of other cities that might have 3 buyers or 5 buyers from almost every city in Southern California. But San Gabriel Valley, the local market, and then the Irvine area are the big source of where our home buyers are coming. Another thing that we studied was just the incomes of our renters. And this was interesting because people always think about renters or who are those people and are they bad for a community? Well, our rental income, it varies by the community we do and the product type. But for almost all of our plans, other than our 1 bedrooms, which lately we haven't been building any of, is over $130,000 per household. We're going to do some more 1 bedrooms. That'll drive it down. But even in our 1 bedrooms, a lot of the incomes are $70,000 to $90,000. So I just wanted to let you know the renters here, there's a lot of shopping power in these renters and a lot of people that can contribute to the community in a lot of ways. We found it interesting on the ages. Again, people think on renters, oh, they're getting out of college, then they're going to go rent an apartment. That's not who's renting our apartments in the preserve. Our average age for head of household is 41 years old. It's actually about 41 and a half. So it's much older than we would have expected. But I think it's just part of the pricing and it's part of where people are in Southern California. Sometimes it's hard to buy a house and people are renting longer. And one of the things we found that was interesting was the turnover rate. At most apartment communities in Southern California and really across the country, you might have a turnover rate of 50% or 60%. Our turnover rate at Homecoming at the Preserve is about 35%. And what that tells us is, for the most part, people like where they're living. They're staying longer than at other communities. And I think that's going to mean they're going to get more engaged over time in the Chino community. When we study where are people going who move out, some are moving out of state, unfortunately. Some are buying a house. Some are going somewhere cheaper if they've lost their job or something else. But for the most part, our turnover is really low compared to the industry, really low compared to other parts of the Lewis portfolio. And I think it's really a message that says the renters at the Chino, they like what they're getting and they're going to stay.
So Randall, let me understand. So other homecoming communities that you own, you find the turnover rate in Chino lower than the other ones?
Our homecoming here is probably the lowest that we've got. Our homecomings in general are lower than most of our competitors. And I think part of it, every developer is going to say they do a great job. We really do a great job. And so we keep our people longer. It's, I mean, we treasure our customers, and so we do everything we can to keep them happy. So, yes. We did some surveying and just talking to people about architecture. What do you like? What do you not like? And the things we found, the most popular types of architecture are still some of our old friends. It's the Spanish architecture, it's the Italian architecture, and it's different groups like different kinds of architecture, but for the most part, those are the most popular kind. One that I'm really love is the modern farmhouse style, which I think goes very well with Chino. And I had my heart broken a couple weeks ago at one of the projects because I said, does everyone love it? And they said, no, a lot of people like it, but not everybody likes the farmhouse style. And I guess that's why Baskin-Robbins has 31 flavors. It's different people like different things.
And porches, right?
Yeah, they love porches too. And then the interesting part is the contemporary architecture. And Pat's drone video was really great for me because I got to see a view of the preserve I've never seen before till tonight. And in the contemporary architecture, it's interesting that probably 30 or 35% of the customers really like the contemporary architecture. Probably of the remaining 65 or 70%, about half hate the architecture, and about half of the remaining are just indifferent to it. And they care more about the floor plan or the price or the location. So I think the message is that the old friends are really good. It's good that we're doing some new styles of architecture, and you can't please everybody with vanilla or chocolate. You need to have some variety. We've learned that there's a lot of shopping power in the preserve. This really came up in our focus group where people talked about how they spend their time. But unfortunately, a lot of it's not going to Chino. Our residents were really happy when we opened up the Stater Brothers. They're really excited about the restaurants that we're getting. But when we talked to them about where are you doing most of your shopping, it was a lot mentioned Chino Hills and a lot of mentioned Eastvale. And they didn't mention some of the older centers. I also thought it was interesting because some of the places that they called Chino Hills were actually in Chino, that Chino doesn't get the credit for some of the centers that they have. I think that's up to us in working with economic development. We really need to educate our residents and do a better job on all the shopping alternatives that exist in Chino, because I know we want to keep as much of those shopping dollars in the community as we can. Another thing that I think is room for improvement on the Lewis side, and again, we'll try to partner with you, was we need to do a better job of educating our residents on just all the great things in Chino and what a great city it is. We heard people talking about it, but they didn't brag about it the way I would have hoped. And that's not their fault, that's my fault, and it's our marketing team's fault. We need to do a better job of selling everything that's great in Chino. So they appreciated it, but we need to tell them they don't realize all that the city of Chino offers. We did hear a lot of people requesting more events and programs at the preserve. They want to feel more a part of the community. And I know, Mayor, that's something that's been important to you. And I think when we get the community center open in the Glenn Duncan Park over, there will be a lot more people from outside the preserve visiting the preserve. So we really want to make people a part of the community and have it go both ways.
Well, our community services offers so many absolutely phenomenal programs, but we have nowhere really to do them down there. So
your community services is great. Yeah, and we just need to tell the story on our side even better. I think I've talked to the city manager. I think we really have some good opportunities to try to engage our residents more in volunteerism, but also in philanthropy. And that's something I see in other cities like Claremont where I live. It's just got more of a culture of philanthropy because people have lived there so long. And I think that's something I want to think, how can we get more involvement with our residents? And I will put that on me and our team to think, how can we do a better job?
quick question about your harvest community.
Yes.
Do you get, I know you were going to offer cooking classes and that kind of stuff. How has that gone?
It's gone well. It's not for everybody, but it's gone really well. So I'm happy. This isn't part of my presentation, but there's a study that came out recently. What are master plan community developers offering and what do customers want? And health and wellness, almost everybody's trying to do what we're doing, offering health and wellness. it doesn't rank quite as high on what the home shoppers want. They still care about, is it a good floor plan and a good price and other stuff. But we are so committed to Healthy Chino and building a culture of health. Good. One of the things that really thrilled us during our focus group was we said, hey, the preserve is great, but we want to make it greater. What could we do? And it went into about a 10-minute discussion, and they said, I wish you had an indoor basketball court. I wish you had a library. I wish you had places where our kids could take classes. I wish you had a place where we could hold banquets and stuff. And our guys started smiling, saying, you've described the community center we're bringing. We felt very happy that what we, working with your staff and the studies you've done, I think it's going to be a home run with the community. We were so excited to hear everyone say that's what they want. And so when that opens, that's going to be fantastic. Chino, talking to the people, Chino's perceived as a safe community, and that's a good thing. I was personally surprised how many of the residents are putting in their own cameras and putting in their own security stuff. And in talking to them, we had people saying, well, are you ever going to put in license plate readers? Can you get more police patrols or something? And it wasn't like they're in a panic or anything, so I don't want to oversell that. But first, there are a lot of people putting in Ring cameras or other stuff. And there's just more and more. And I think that's not Chino. I think it's Southern California, that safety and security are just going to get more and more important in the future. I just wanted to wrap up sort of the vision of the preserve from the beginning, and working with Mayor, you were part of it, and some of your other colleagues, and all of you have been part of it, giving us good advice. It was to do something different. It was to say, let's not be Eastvale, let's not be Ontario, let's not even be parts of what already is good about Chino. Let's do something different. And let's put in amenities, let's put in trails, let's put in a lot of things to try to build community. And we feel very good. We've heard from people that they like the architecture, they like the landscaping. I mean, in general, the people living in the preserve are happy, and we feel good that the vision we've promised the city, we think we've delivered on, and it's paid off economically. I mean, the preserve has been a big success, and we're really grateful for that. And we've had a lot of people say, I turned down Eastvale, or I turned down other places. I could get a bigger lot, but I'd rather be in a master plan community. And it's not that we're better than Eastvale, we're just different than Eastvale. It's not that we're better than Ontario, we're just different than that. And so I feel proud of what we've done. It's been working with staff, working with the community, working with the council and commission. I think we stayed true to the vision. Lastly, I just want to say personal goals for me, and I'm so excited to see the school district here. I mean, we have 3 groups we really want to do more with in the future. Number 1 is the school district. It's such an important part of the community. Our relationships have not been as good as they could have been, and we really want to work to heal that, because we just know for half of the residents of the preserve, the schools are vitally important. But I think with a really great school district, which we have, it's going to impact a lot more than half of the residents. I think second, we really want to partner even more with community services to just take all the great things that are happening through community services, get our residents more involved in them, get more feedback on what they want, and just so much of what makes Chino great, we want to make it even greater. And lastly, working with public safety, the security thing and the safety thing, again, it's Southern California, and maybe it's the United States. We need to partner more with public safety just to make sure our residents feel safe and comfortable. With that, we're very proud of what we've done. We're very grateful to be here and happy to answer any questions we can.
Well, Randall, you know my saying since 1984 is that I wanted something for everyone.
Yes.
You know, in a truly balanced community, and by the time the preserve is built out, there will be something for everyone. And I know that's been important to me for a long, 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 long time. And, you know, I want to commend you and your company for actually working toward that.
Yes.
You know, there is going to be something for everyone there. And I know we kind of go back and forth about the state residential lots, but it's important that people have options.
We will have something for everybody here.
Something for everybody. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much,
Good,
Randall.
thank you. We're open for questions, and if they're hard, Aaron O'Leary and Pat Loy will answer them.
No, Mark?
Just what's the timeline on the community centers? We have the champion
get
here, so they're
Pat
gonna want to report on that.
Come on up.
We're very close to wrapping up the conceptual designs, and then there's an administrative approval process that goes through. Then we'll go to working drawings. So probably next year, springtime, we'll have working drawings approved. Then we need to work with the city on, okay, when's the timetable to start? We've been told it could be a 12 to 16-month construction process. So if we start sometime in 25, that probably gets it to delivery in early 27. I did my math right, but yes, we're working aggressively with the city on that.
And your staff has been fantastic. I mean, we've done field trips. We've looked at pictures of community centers all over California. And I think what we're getting collectively together is really going to be a jewel of Chino.
Karen? Mr. Lewis, I'd like to thank you as well. I think that the partnership that the city of Chino has with Lewis Land and the development is going to be a very nice master plan community down there. There are people who have their perspectives about master plan communities. I've never lived in one, but my sister lives in one. And what I can tell you is once it's developed, it's very nice. It's a very different way of living. And when I do go down there and visit people that live in that area, I find them to be happy as well. I think the source of their frustration for a long period of time was lack of amenities, and now that those amenities are coming online, I think they're happier. I think with some of the things that Fallon Chris spoke about tonight, it will provide them for more opportunities to stay local in their communities. I also think a big source of their frustration has been just the catch-up phase of the infrastructure and roads that you saw tonight are going to cost, over $200 million for the city to construct and figure out moving forward in order to make the circulation down there proper. But we will do it. We will find a way to do it with our local partners and the county and the state and find a way to fund these and advance them. We have to do it. Our residents are depending on us to do it because of these arterial supports and the support that it's going to provide to the region, not just Chino, as our Director of Public Works spoke tonight. I think the last thing I saw tonight, Linda, I like the new modern design. I also like the Spanish architecture, so I thought that was very interesting. But Linda, when I look at that, I see a lot of maintenance. Some of the feedback that I get on a continuous basis is not just the parks that the city owns, but the ones that the HOA owns there. I don't believe that we have clearly defined how, when we inspect those things, to make sure that they're being properly maintained. I've said this before. I'm a person that travels about the city in a lot of different parts of it. And I think one of the things that's going to become a challenge for us is making sure that not just the publicly owned parks, but the HOA parks and different things are properly maintained. These are great things when they're maintained well so our residents can enjoy them. But when they become not well maintained or there's a lack of proper maintenance to them, I think that's a source of frustration for people and it contributes to blight instead of beauty. Mm-hmm. So those are my comments, and
I'd like to say,
thank you, Mayor.
we share your observations about the infrastructure and of things that the customers are talking about. We also share your concern for long-term. I mean, unlike a lot of companies, we are a developer that reinvest, and so I hope we will own a couple thousand apartments and a big shopping center, and we want the preserve to be good for 100 years because we're going to be owning part of it. Yeah,
I think that
we're
helps
on your
us.
team. We're
Yeah.
on your team.
Yeah, I think having a local stake in it is vital. So thank you for that, Mr. Lewis. Also, just thank you for being such a good partner to the school district, to us, for wanting to advance philanthropy in our community. I think that's vital for our legacy. And you and your company do a lot for our community, and we're grateful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Kurt?
I'd also like to thank all of our presenters this evening, our staff, for doing a great job and giving us a breakdown. And thank you for giving us a really good snapshot of where we're at right now and where we're going in the very, very near future. I do have a question. At build-out, we're going to have a lot more people. Do we have a number what the population is going to be at build-out down there at the conclusion of all this?
No, but I would assume it would be somewhere between 25 and 30,000 people.
And what percentage are we at approximately?
I know the Lewis side we're at 60-some% or 63%, I think. Whatever 5,500 is out of 7,900.
And having that in mind, I know we have 2 schools down there. What's the plan of putting another school down there? We're gonna need another school, and I appreciate the school district folks being here. Have we thought about that? I know that Mark had brought it up a meeting or 2 ago. Is that in the plans to have another school? Because we certainly.
It'll be up to
probably ought
the school
invest.
district, and of course, we would try to collaborate. I'm not sure we will need it. I mean, one of the things we're seeing, which, again, it goes back to half our people don't have kids, we're seeing throughout the region declining enrollments per household. And it's just, my sense is right now we're probably okay with the school plan. But again, that will be the job of the school district. But I think we're going to be okay with the number of schools.
But I think the schools are full now. Without Fallon Crest and without the rest of your development. I was told the 2 schools are already at
Legacy and
capacity.
Calero are both,
At
I
capacity.
believe I heard that they were both at capacity. Is that, they're not at capacity?
I think I'll let the school district
Yeah.
either answer now or
Shaking
come
their
back.
head
Maybe
no.
you can have them come back.
Thank you, Randall.
But thank you for the information. And I'm with you, by the way, as far as the modern farmhouse. That's my favorite design as well. I think that's
too.
great.
It broke my heart when that salesperson said that. Yeah. But a lot of people like it, just not everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Any comments from you guys?
No comments, just, you know, I agree with what the rest of the council has mentioned up here. I think, you know, the efforts of philanthropy are amazing, and, you know, I just like Councilwoman Karen mentioned, I'm down there a lot at the preserve, and about a year ago, we had a chance to walk that site, you and I, and so it's good to see it coming along, and I mean, the residents that I speak with out down there, or you know, residents that I come across while you know, eating over at some of the restaurants down there. I mean, it seems like everyone's just really enjoying it, and the nightlife there. I'll tell you, I went to the restaurant down there about a week and a half ago, and you know, in terms of, you know, what was mentioned earlier, that there's times where people go eat and they just go home. But I think at least what I seen that night in the parking lot, you had just a lot of families hanging out and, you know, just enjoying just a good time there in the parking lot. So I guess that just goes to show how many people don't want to just eat and go home. You know, they want to hang out. But again, you guys are making that happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just, again, want to thank you guys for the partnership. I especially want to thank you guys for being as responsive as you guys were when we determined that we needed that sidewalk there on Pine Avenue, and you guys went forward and built it even without the development being there. So you guys have been a great partner, and I thank you for being responsive to our residents and really catering to their needs. So I thank
A
you
lot
for
of
that.
credit for that goes to Pat Loy and Aaron O'Leary. They're the ones who actually make it happen. Good.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Before I go, I just want to thank all of you for your support. You really have a great staff from the people in planning, community service everywhere, and your city manager and assistant city manager are really doing a great job. So thank you for hiring them and letting us work with them.
Thank you, Randall.
Thank you.
Okay, Linda, is there anything more on this item?
No, Mayor.
Okay, then we will now move on to item number 2, City of Chino Planning Commission Sphere of Influence Commissioner. This is to discuss some ideas that we had previously and provide direction to staff. I'd like to ask for a staff report from our city attorney, Fred Galante.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council and all of those present. A little background on this item. At its July 5th meeting of last year, the Planning Commission responded to the City Council's request for feedback on Planning Commission composition, appointment process, and terms. Specifically, the Planning Commission voted by 6-0 against appointing future members from the city's sphere of influence to serve on the Planning Commission in a voting capacity. However, the commission by 4-2 vote supported having a sphere of influence members serve on the commission so long as they serve in a non-voting, just advisory capacity. Thereafter, this council held a workshop on April 9th of this year and directed staff to return with a proposed ordinance implementing the following directives. Number 1, the one sphere of influence member would be appointed from each sphere of influence area, namely the north and the south areas. The sphere of influence member serve a term of 2 years, allowing the members to remain in place until the conclusion of their term if that particular area from where the sphere of influence member lives is annexed to the city. Number 3, that the sphere of influence members serve in a voting capacity. And finally, that the sphere of influence members should have the ability to vote on matters or items that applied citywide or which involve land within or in close proximity to the sphere of influence area in which that particular member resides. On matters or items that apply citywide, the member would serve as an alternate to the other member, so that if one member is absent, unavailable, or otherwise unable to participate in a matter, then the other may participate in his or her place. Separately, the council considered whether to broadcast the Planning Commission meetings in light of staff's recommendation and the information that the viewership is relatively low for city council live meetings. The sentiment was it would likely trend much lower for planning commission meetings. So the council directed that the planning commissions not be broadcast at this time, but wanted to revisit that issue in the future. So provided with this workshop agenda is a draft of the ordinance that implements the council's directives. Staff wanted to present this to the council to seek direction on whether to bring back the ordinance for full adoption or make any potential changes. One item that was discussed at the workshop is all conflict rules would apply to the sphere of influence members, so that if a member has some material financial impact related to a matter or lives within close proximity to a proposed project, he or she would have to recuse themselves. Also, Brown Act quorum rules would apply, so that a majority of the members, including the sphere of influence members, could not speak about matters that are the subject of the Planning Commission outside of a publicly noticed meeting. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions or hear whether the proposed ordinance is still meets the council's desires, and answer questions.
Okay, what I would like to do is just have general discussion with every council member giving some input on what they feel about what's been presented here this evening. I know we had a lot to say that evening that it was discussed, and sometimes, you verbally talk about some stuff, and then by the time you see it written down, it's a little bit different than what you had in mind. So would anybody like to go first, or should I just go down the line? Okay, Chris?
Yeah, before I make my comments, and I'm sorry I stepped out, Fred, of your presentation. Can you go over that fourth issue there regarding the members' right to vote? If I read it correctly, these members would have the right to vote for, what does that say? They're citywide issues. Is that correct? And anything in their sphere, pending the any I forget what you call it.
Right. So if it's something that applies citywide, they could vote on it, because presumably that could spill over and impact the sphere. If it's within the sphere, then they could vote on the matter. And if it's within the same type of rules that apply to noticing of projects, so 300 feet from the sphere of influence area where they reside, that could likely affect the sphere, so those would be areas where they could vote. When I say citywide issues, it'd be like a general plan amendment that applies citywide, things of that nature.
So it wouldn't be like a proposed project on, I don't know, Central and Schaefer or something like that?
Right.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah, that wouldn't be close enough.
I understand. Yeah, going back to some of the mayor's comments about, we say it and then we look at it in paper, it just looks different. That's definitely the case. And just my apologies honestly to our staff, because I think when I walked out that last meeting, I just thought that was a lot of information, a lot of back and forth, and I don't think it was very progressive, I guess is the word I'm using. But I don't know, my initial thoughts, Mayor, and to our staff and the rest of the council are, this seems like a drastic change. And again, I know we including myself, right, asked the staff to kind of bring this back. And when I read it on paper, it just doesn't, it seems like just too much. And if I may, I think what I'd like to propose, and I know I touched on this once before, was it just seems it seems just easier, I think, from my perspective, to. I love that we are considering having a member from the sphere of influence, be a part of this, the changes and things that come to the commission. But again, I guess just to keep it short, what I'd like to see is we have 7 members right now, and I think what would, again, make all this easier would be just opening up one of those positions to a member from the sphere of influence, whether that be the North or the South, and when in terms of basically just opening up that position, right, and one of those seats up, and that still gives the mayor position the power to look at these applications, anything that may come in from the sphere of influence, communities, and decide what the best options are. But just adding 2 more members, we barely even have enough seats for 9 people up here, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem like, I don't know, it just seems like we may run into some issues down the road with the way it's proposed. But again, I don't know, just my general thought is, it seems easier just to open up one position, one seat to the sphere of influence and allow them to at least submit an application, and it'd be up to the mayor and the council's approval to, bring them on board or not. But again, those are just some general thoughts.
Perhaps if I could just ask for some clarification. So your suggestion is keep it as a 7-member body, but open up one of those positions potentially to a sphere of influence member, but not necessarily. It would be in the mayor's discretion, obviously, with the ratification of the council. Is that correct? Right.
Accepting one or a couple applications, how many ever come in, and just reviewing those, and as a council deciding what is, who's most qualified, at least at the moment.
And they would serve in a voting capacity.
Yes, and I guess that would also mean voting in a capacity that, again, just having the same voting rights as the other 6 members.
Okay, Mark?
Okay, so in looking at this, it says whether to add 1 or more members of the Planning Commission to represent areas within the city's sphere of influence. If so, should the sphere of influence be appointed to serve in a voting or advisory capacity? I think when we discussed this, we agreed we would add the 1 member from both sides of the sphere, so adding 2 members, that they would only have voting capacity if it impacted the sphere of influence, but not citywide. Whether the Planning Commission meeting should be broadcasted, I would lean towards no, because of what was pointed out by the staff. And then it says 1 sphere of influence member should be appointed, so that yes, on the North and the South. 2 years is fine with me. And unless, of course, their area's annexed, then they would obviously have to give it to somebody else that's not incorporated into the city. So if they were in the sphere of influence as a voting member on the Planning Commission for anything in the sphere, and then all of a sudden their home was incorporated into the city, then they would have to resign, and then we'd have to get somebody else that's in the sphere. The sphere members serve in the voting capacity, again, only if it impacts the sphere, but not citywide. The sphere members should have the ability to vote on that. So I think that's it. I think that's all been covered. So I believe we should do the 2 members. I believe they should have voting rights only in the sphere, and I don't believe that they should serve on matters that are citywide because it doesn't affect them at that point. And the 2-year term is fine.
Okay, Karen? I know we don't like to talk about this, but I think this impacts District 4 specifically the most because of the sphere. So we talked about this in our last meeting. The reason we talked about 2 people was because of the north and the south section of the sphere of influence. I think my biggest concern in addressing Councilmember Flores' comments is it could be difficult to get people from both segments of the sphere, and I don't see that the policy addresses if we can't fill it, if we go out and actually seek to appoint somebody to it, or if nobody applies for it, how that will be addressed if we decide to do 2 people. The other thing is if we made it an even number, that was the discussion in the last meeting was on a voting issue, but that's not necessarily the worst thing if a motion were to die, that way on the voting. And I did talk in the past, I don't have a problem with the appointed members of to the Commission for the Sphere to have voting on matters that addressed that area, because I think that's what we're looking for is just input. Although I don't, I can make an argument for both voting and non-voting, but I don't have a problem with them voting, either way. I'm sorry, Mark, what was the other thing that you mentioned?
I think it's the length of term.
The length of term, yes. 2 years, we talked about should they be annexed into the location, that's covered here in the policy. I think that's it for right now, Mara. Let me think a little bit more. Thank you.
Kurt?
I don't have any problems with 2 representatives from the sphere going on to the commission. I do have a question, though, Fred, that things that are voted on within the planning commission, if it affects the sphere and those individuals are able to vote on it, could the outcome of that vote have effects throughout the entire city? In other words, if they vote on an issue within a building development, whatever decision is made, could that decision affect other areas within the city? Does that make sense?
I suppose it would really depend on the
Maybe policy or
circumstances. If it's a project that impacts sort of a larger region because of traffic, et cetera, I would think the answer to your question is yes. But if it's sort of a smaller project that doesn't have sort of a more regional impact, then no. I don't know if that's really where your question's going.
I think it is. I think it is.
Yeah.
My initial thought was to get members from the sphere in an advisory capacity only and not have any voting rights, because it's the city of Chino. It's going to affect us ultimately. However, it does affect them as well because they live in that area. So I don't have an issue necessarily at this point in time with them having voting rights. The 2-year term, I'm in agreement with that as well. So, and I think that was it, right, Mayor?
Okay. I have one more comment.
Yeah, Karen?
I think I was going to recommend, Mayor, it just came to me that if nobody applies, that we don't necessarily appoint it. I just think we leave it vacant. I think that's the recommendation I would make to staff. And in reading this earlier, I just was thinking, it was like, hey, why make it harder on ourselves? And should something come of an issue and somebody decides they want to become involved and they can apply, we can seek to appoint them. But
Well, you could have either option. You just leave it vacant, or as Councilmember Flores suggested, the mayor can simply choose from a host of applications. You invite members of the sphere to apply, and ultimately the candidates that the mayor believes are best suited, obviously ratified by the entire council, gets that position. It's just giving an opportunity to the member in the sphere, but so there's that option, or you just leave it vacant if.
I think it defeats the purpose if you have people that are outside the sphere voting on the other section of the sphere, to me, of the original intent of the appointee. The intent is for them to serve that area that's impacted by it. So my recommendation would be, if we don't have anybody that, is really interested in serving that capacity, just to potentially leave it vacant.
Okay, when I read this, after all the discussion that we had, I went, well, that's not what I was thinking at all. So I kind of went, oh, I don't like that one. So I've talked a little bit to Linda about it. I feel that it's important to have input from the sphere. So I would like a person from the south and a person from the north. But my idea was advisory, not voting. And the positions would be opened up. People could apply. If they don't apply, then the position stays open. But for me, I'd like to hear their input. What are they concerned with and stuff? They don't currently live in the city. So I don't think they should if a piece of property is being discussed and it's contiguous with the sphere, then I think it would be good to hear their input. But again, not a voting member, but advisory. I have no problems with the 2 years. If the area is annexed, then I think they immediately would be required to resign, because the intent is to get input from the sphere of influence. And if they're part of the city, then that's a different circumstance. So for me, what's written, while I appreciate the staff's effort to try to cover everything that was suggested, for me, it's too complicated, especially when it comes to, well, if it's voting on city and not voting on city, and what happens if it annexes and stuff. I think for me, I would like it to be very simple, to open it up to people who are interested in the sphere and in the north and the south, take the applications, narrow it down to who's the most competent or the most qualified, and then bring it to the council. I would like the input of the person whose district that sphere is in, okay? But have an advisory capacity, not a voting capacity. If they choose to participate, great. If they don't want to participate, then they don't. If they miss so many meetings, then they get kicked off and we open it back up again. I would like it to be very simple and not complicated.
So they would attend all the meetings, or they would just attend the meetings where there was a sphere issue?
They could attend the meetings with spheres in. If they want to come to every meeting, they could, but they would not have an input. But they would have input if it deals with the sphere of influence.
Right.
And if they were to be annexed, we would just move to remove them before their term was up?
Yeah.
So, and then seek another person from the sphere?
That is not annexed. That could be discussed. They could fill their term out, but then again, we wouldn't have input from maybe another area that we're contemplating annexing, because they're not part of that area. Do you see what I mean? So, and the intent again is to get advice from someone who lives in the sphere. If they're annexed, they're no longer technically in the sphere. They're now, once it gets annexed, and that's of course a longer procedure, but then they're part of the city. They're not a representative from the sphere any longer. They're
Presumably, they could apply to be full members at that
Yeah,
point.
then they could apply on an opening when we have an opening for the planning commission. Chris, I don't like the idea of opening up one of the 7 seats, because who are you going to kick off? I'm not in favor of that.
I guess my response to the advisory, I mean, even now, right, there was many times where we had workshops about the annexation, so we are hearing from them now. And they do show up to a lot of these meetings, right, residents from this. So having one particular person, I don't know if I really see any more benefit in that than what we currently do, which is, as a city, right, we go out there, we host a town hall meeting, and the place always gets filled. So I know even now we are hearing from them. And I think that, I don't know, in terms of simplicity, it'd be just one more line to the ordinance, right? Hey, if you're from the sphere, you have an opportunity to apply. And who would we kick off? I don't know. It'd be your decision, and we'd be ratify that. But definitely the less qualified, I think, would be kicked off. And if we have someone more qualified from the sphere of influence, then great. If we don't, great. I think, just some quick thoughts.
And to piggyback off of what he said, I understand what everybody's saying, but like, for example, when we were looking at projects that were going to go in the sphere and that we needed to annex, and the sphere of influence, the people in the community came out big and said, we don't want this. What would putting one person on there do other than what we already have? We already have the community come out and talk, but if we're not going to give them an opportunity to sit down and actually cast a vote in response to the people that they're going to be representing, which is the sphere of influence, then why even have it? We already have them come out during these meetings when they don't like a project that's going to be, let's say, high density in the sphere. Why have them as an advisory capacity? You just open up the meeting and they're going to show up and give you all their statements anyway. That was the whole purpose of opening it up to the sphere, was to get their input, not just their input, but their ability to weigh in on what goes in their neighborhood or what's potentially going to go.
Having been in that circumstance before and having gone through the no on H and all the different things that have happened, if you don't have an assigned spokesperson, people grumble and grumble and grumble and meet and everything, but you never have like a representative come forward that has a picture of what everything's going through to get answers to the area. I ended up being that spokesperson, not by volunteering, but getting volunteered when our area annexed. And so it fell upon my shoulders to represent all of the landowners there and the residents to figure out what was going on between what was happening in the county and what was happening in the city. And they had a point of contact instead of the crowd, kind of mobbing the city council or the county. And it ended up getting us annexed, and we ended up with some zone changes, and it turned out really well. The difficulty in just having a public hearing is everybody comes and everybody speaks, and then everybody goes home.
Yeah, but I think you have some people in the sphere, like Jerry. You have some people like Larry Walker. Those folks all get together, and that's where that Hope Protect Chino came in, and they're very well aware of everything that's being discussed in the Planning Commission and everything else, and that's how they unite and get together, and they all show up to the meetings. So I think they're already well informed. It's just they're voicing their concerns or the displeasure, and I think we already have that. We don't need one person to sit here and tell us what they're saying, because they're going to show up and tell us anyway. But
only if they know what's going on. And the reason why they know what's going on is because Jerry's here, but he only represents the north.
correct, and that's
And
where
we're lucky that we have him here
and that's where we're having most of the annexation going on right now.
currently.
Yeah, so will we have somebody coming in when we start annexing portions of the south? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think these folks are already in the north. They're already very well aware. But I think the whole purpose of why we were even considering this was because we wanted to give them a voice. And if we're not going to give them a voting right, then we're not really giving them a voice. We're just letting one person come here regularly and vent. That's just that's my personal opinion. But
And Mark, I was with you on that. My initial reaction to this was just an advisory position like the mayor had mentioned. But like you had mentioned, after I thought about that, giving them an opportunity to have a voice and have a say. Anybody can show up and be in an advisory position from the sphere. I think it would be beneficial if we gave that person a voice, give that person a vote as to what goes on within their area of the sphere.
But only the sphere, correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
I agree with that. Well, like I said, I can make an argument for voting on both ways, but it just seems like also like them sitting on the dais and weighing in without the vote, it just seems like you said, Martha, there's a person in the meeting giving their opinion. And I think if the rest of the commission recognizes that they have, the ability to cast a vote into the sphere, I think it gives them more skin in the game.
Okay, then a little bit beyond that, how about land that's contiguous with the sphere, or is it only the sphere?
Well, I would say, because we've already discussed it, it would be the sphere.
Just the sphere, okay.
Just the sphere.
So are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Can you come back to me?
Okay.
I think it's the sphere because, Chris,
comfortable with
if the
this?
sphere is
Okay.
what we're interested in, because
Right.
I agree with the mayor's point in that these votes should come, when it comes to planning, from the city, from the residents of the city. And I think you asked most residents of the city. That's why we have a council and the commission appointed from the city. I think what we're looking at is for information specific to the sphere.
Just the sphere, right.
I guess my difficulty in just agreeing to that is that, again, if we have somebody who's really qualified from the sphere, I don't know, previous engineer or whatever the case may be, their value, their input may definitely be more valuable, to other projects that are happening around the city of Chino, and yeah, I guess it just depends on the qualification and just the knowledge and the experience of the individual. But I mean, if someone who's experience levels there and someone who's just completely qualified, I think it'd be beneficial to the city to have their input on projects that are happening down south or downtown Chino or what the case may be. Because, I mean, we don't know who that individual is, but they may be like myself or yourself, Karen, who just travel around the city. So just because they live in the north, that doesn't mean they don't know what's happening, in the south or the central part of, the city of Chino. And again, I think that's going to be up to the mayor and the council to find that right person. But
Well, we'll get the best person. I think you're being outvoted so far.
that's
I
true.
think,
Yeah.
because when the area annexes, they would then have a right to apply for the planning commission when an opening comes.
Yeah. So that's 30, 40 years away, but it could be. But so I guess right now I wouldn't cast my vote for that.
And I think the other thing too is, I would say that some of the mindset of the residents that are in our sphere, because they are impacted by our services, our roads, they do a lot of their business in Chino, has probably changed in the past 7 to 10 years. Where I think, at least in my perspective and speaking with a lot of those residents, is that they were probably happy with our growth control measures and different land use, ordinances according to our general plan. But now that they're experiencing the growth that we're experiencing, and in this area, Mayor, that you've touched on, with the lack of a proper, an updated general plan for the sphere, I think a lot of our residents would probably appreciate, the option of local annexation, because it's actually going to provide them with more local control.
That's why we did.
So I think if you asked this question 30 years ago, I think there would probably be a different perspective on it, because there wasn't the abundance of growth in this community that there is now. I think now there's probably more of an interest for them to say, hey, we see that the tide has shifted, that there's probably more opportunity for us to have more destiny over our future with annexation into local control. So I think that's going to be an interesting perspective that we could get from a resident living in this sphere. I've said this often, sometimes the north portion of the sphere annexation doesn't always make as much sense to me as the center core, but it all is impactful to us.
It's interesting, though, that you made that comment, because that's exactly why our area did annex. Because we wanted to have input on what was happening, and the county didn't care. County was gonna do what the county was gonna do, and we were adamant to try to protect as much as we could and get a logical transition from condominiums back to the 1 acre properties. And so that's why our area annexed, was to have a voice and have control.
That's presently occurring with the annexation at Philadelphia and East End, Mayor.
Right.
As well as the ongoing complaints from residents about vending
Yes.
in county areas that are very dangerous in areas.
Because we don't have control.
Yeah, we were talking about pedestrians crossing streets in areas, in populating areas, and people's front and backyards that they would, prefer to have more local control over. So things have changed, what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's changed, and yet it's the same. People want control over their destiny. Okay, it seems like we have 4 in favor of doing the 2 seats and voting, but only in the sphere. I'll go ahead and go with that. 2-year terms. If the area annexes, then they would, that's an item still to be totally vetted out, but the person would either, once the annexation is complete, either then resign their seat, and we ask for applications from the new sphere, or the rest of the sphere, or they fill out their 2-year terms. I'd like input on that.
And if we don't get an application for one of the.
Then it stays open. It stays open, and then we still can accept applications
Yes.
until someone does apply and is qualified. You good? Okay, any questions, staff?
Do you mind if I just run through these again? So voting or non-voting, I'm hearing voting.
Voting sphere of influence only.
We're going to have 2, I was going to get to that, 2 members, one from the north and one from the south. Presumably if a sphere area goes away because it's fully annexed, that
Then you don't need
you only have
representative
1 member
anymore.
left.
Right.
Well, you need to update the ordinance at that point anyway, so. If they are, so voting, then it's not citywide, it's only actually within the sphere, not abutting the sphere within 300 feet. It actually has to be in the sphere, and each member votes within their own sphere area. If one member has a conflict or they're serving as alternate for the other member, do they get to vote on the other sphere?
I don't have a problem with that. How about you guys? If through conflict somebody can't attend, then the other sphere representative
Or conflict with the project.
or conflict
Too close
with
to
the
their
project,
home.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that. I don't think it would cause an
I don't have a
issue.
problem with that. I think when we look back into the, what the legislative intent of the sphere influences is to those residents. So I don't see why we would want that person to weigh in, but
Well, they can't
Yeah.
if they're voting, they can't legally. So the other representative then would be incumbent on him or her to represent that area for them.
Right.
I understand what you're saying.
See what I mean?
Term of 2 years, it automatically ends upon the annexation, at which time the removed member is welcome to apply.
They resign and we get a new member.
I think that answers all my questions.
That's all the ones I have too.
Okay, is there any input from the audience on this issue? Seeing none, then I guess, any last comments? Okay, then we will adjourn to our next regular meeting that will be held on Tuesday, September 17th at 6, with a closed session no earlier than 4 if necessary. And I think we missed the debate.